Reinvention is what keeps you hungry. It's what keeps you engaged. It's what keeps you curious. It's where the sparks of innovation live.
3, 2, 1. And so we're going to begin here initially with a lady who, she's had tremendous background. She'd been a vice president of communications at Warner Brothers. She'd worked with the Clinton administration. She'd worked with Edelman, a big PR agency. And at 52 years old, she decided to become an entrepreneur. And she was so successful that literally she turned things around. I think the first year she made $5 million in gross revenues, but within 3 years was doing $100 million. And she did it to solve a problem, like most great entrepreneurs, in this case, for 2 of her family members. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for GAIL Becker, founder of CAULIPOWER, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, we're thrilled to have you.
Thank you. I'm so thrilled to be here.
What's your experience of witnessing these crazy people we're all doing together here? I'm curious.
It's amazing. It's palpable.
That's wonderful. Well, listen, you had a storied career in corporate America and in politics as well. After 16, 17 years, at the age of 52, you just start a business. What creates this career change for you on such a massive scale? Will you share with us the story?
How did a nice girl like me end up in the pizza business? Really,
That's
what
right.
You're asking. So it was really 3 things that happened at the same time. One was the passing of my father, who came to this country with nothing. He was an entrepreneur. He was in
Auschwitz, wasn't he?
He was a Holocaust survivor.
Wow.
He was. Both my parents were, and I'm actually a first-generation American. But he came here with nothing, actually less than nothing. No family, no schooling, no money, no language skills. And he built a small business. And when he died, something inside me really just changed. And I knew I wanted to do something more meaningful, something that was going to make a difference in people's lives. I didn't know what it was, but I knew I had to do something. I had a successful career in corporate America. But I suppose you could say I worked my way up to the top of the ladder and realized I didn't like the view very much. And then finally, I was the mom of 2 boys. I am the mom of 2 boys with celiac disease. And they were diagnosed at such a young age that there was no gluten-free food in the store. So everything they made, everything they wanted, I had to make. And it gave me a good perch from which to watch the industry evolve. And I saw they were putting so much junk in gluten-free food. And I thought, well, someone's going to do something, but no one ever did. And so I put all of those things in a virtual blender. My disenchantment with corporate life, the passing of my father, and the realization that people must want something better. And what I came out with is, I know I'm going to leave my successful job in corporate America and start a company called CAULIPOWER.
And you started that with very little capital. I know you had a little bit of funds that you'd had. I heard you use credit cards. You sold some of your clothes.
I sold my clothes online. I bought this one back.
That's awesome. So tell me about those early days. I mean, as I understand it, you looked for answers for your kids, and it took you like 90 minutes, if I understood correctly, to make one of these. And you're like, this is ridiculous. So give us the evolution, how you came to the product itself, at least your initial product.
Yeah, so I think like so many parents, we're always looking for ways to make our meals more nutritious for our kids. I stumbled across cauliflower crust pizza one night. There were 569,000 recipes on the internet. I picked one. It was okay, nothing great. About 2 weeks later, my eldest son said, "Hey, Mom, are you ever going to make that thing again?" And I said, "There's no way I'm making that again." It took 90 minutes after I got home from a full day of work. But I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll find it for you. And I looked everywhere. I looked online, I looked in stores, and I couldn't find it. And so that's when I thought, I can't be alone. And nobody has that kind of time. And why isn't Big Food recognizing that? Yeah. And that's when I decided to do it myself.
And I'm curious, I'm always curious to the moment. Can you remember the moment you decided to do this? Because you had all these factors you're describing,
Yeah.
all this happening.
Yeah.
But all those things are happening. Then there's the moment that people make the decision. What was the
Yes,
moment?
I remember the moment so well. And one of the reasons I remember it, Tony, is because I came so close to not doing it.
Wow.
And that's the scary thing. When I'm here and I get to talk to you and I get to meet all these incredible entrepreneurs and founders, that's what scares me, is how close I came to not doing it. I remember I sat my kids down at the kitchen table, and I remember I was either going to tell them or I was going to make up another reason for sitting them down. And something inside me said, I want to show them. I want to show them that, it's never too late to bet on yourself. And so I just did it. I said, I'm going to start a company and you two are going to help me. And I made them sit there while I called my lawyer to draw up the paperwork because we were going to start a company together.
So they really are connected.
Oh, from the beginning, yes.
Give her a hand, but that's gorgeous. That's really gorgeous. So tell us, when did you know you had something? When did you know that this thing had really started to click? I know in the first year, was it that you got yourself into Whole Foods for like 30 locations?
Yeah, so our very first order came from Whole Foods. Boy, don't you remember the day you were, or, where you were when you got that order. I was in a Starbucks. I wanted to buy everyone in the place a latte. But I got that order, and we were in one region.
And how did you get them in the first place? Just for people thinking.
Yeah.
I understand you went to maybe the Anaheim Food Fair or the...
Oh, yeah. Well, actually, so for those out there who are thinking about starting a food company, Whole Foods has this wonderful program where if you live in that region, you can pitch your product to that region. So I brought my pizzas in a styrofoam container. It was like bringing my kids to daycare and leaving them with a stranger. And I put them on the front desk and I said, here. And 2 weeks later, I got an email from a buyer. Whole Foods said, we love them and we're bringing them in. When did I know I had something? Well, I can tell you they sold out like that, and the distributor is sold out like that. And I think I really started to know, Tony, honestly, is when I started to hear from people. When people were sharing with me how they were eating our products, how they were enjoying it, the difference it was making in their lives, the time it gave them to spend doing something else that they loved. And that's when I thought, wow, this could be something.
What was the breakthrough in the recipe? I don't know if you can reveal that or not, that allowed you to make something so tasty when some of the others weren't, some are like cardboard, and also to be able to deliver it rapidly, because your mindset, really, as I understand it, is you don't want people to have to choose between good food, delicious, and I think you say the speed of life.
Yes, exactly. Well, good. I might just put you on the box because that was said very nicely. Yeah, that's exactly true. So what happened was, first of all, and again for your viewers out there, it was really hard to find a manufacturer who would even make it for me.
Yes.
Right? I mean, when you're young, when you're a young entrepreneur and you have no real volume, you have nothing, they're taking a chance on you. Must have had 7 different manufacturers turn me down. It was the very last one that I remember just literally begging them to just give it one more try because they were ready to give up. And they did, and we got it. And that was a fair amount of work. And then we did launch it in Whole Foods, but we went to the Natural Expo West, which is what you had talked about. That was in March, and that's when all of these other retailers had come by and tried it and really wanted it. And just to answer your question on the cardboard reference for the competitors, that's where my kids came in. They were my taste testers because I knew if they weren't going to eat it, no one was. So, they tried a lot of beta versions of that crust, but we all agreed on the one we picked.
It sounds like we have a lot to thank your voice.
Yes, we do.
How did you capitalize? I understand you funded this initial work, but then when you all of a sudden have these mass retailers, how many distributors do you have now? You have retail distributors, and tell us how many restaurants.
Yeah, so
today?
we are in 30,000 retail locations.
Wow.
So we're not hard
Never
to
handled
find,
that.
which is
That's
nice.
amazing.
Thank you, thank you.
How many restaurants also?
And we're in 5,000 restaurants,
Wow.
which is great. Obviously, it took a lot of time to build those. Sure, we got those no's early on, but I knew how important it was. Particularly if you're first to market, if you're creating a category, it's incredibly important to build that distribution because I knew competitors were going to be coming down the line a year and a half later or what have you. And so I worked really hard to expand that distribution as quickly as we could so that we could have that foothold. And that ended up working out very well for us.
And did you get the distribution because the product was so darn good? What do you think really helped it to take off?
I would say yes, yes, and yes.
Okay.
I think the three things that we had going for us, one was the marketing of it, right? The marketing of it, the brand, the voice that we spoke to consumers, and they weren't used to hearing food companies speak to them like that. Like, how fun! We were very self-deprecating. My goodness, we put a big black big black letters of a meme on the front of our box. Like, we made them laugh, and that we made them smile. And I think that is a brand's reputation. I think that's part of our job to do in today's world. So we did that. Our timing was really good, right? It was people were looking for ways to eat better without sacrificing taste, and so our timing, I think, was pretty spot on. But most importantly, and I would say this to anyone out there who has any product, but I'll speak for it as someone in the food industry. Just like in real estate, what's the number one rule? Location, location, location.
Yes.
In food, it's taste, taste, taste. And, for whatever product you're creating, you gotta have that quality. In today's world, consumers will call you out on it if you don't. And so that was always really important to us, and we had all three.
How did you fund, though, that massive growth in such a short period of time?
Well, I would say two ways. So, one, I told you about my dad. He really lived the American dream. He bought a house in San Francisco in the early 1970s. He paid $62,000 for it.
Wow.
And when he passed away, I sold that house.
Yes.
San Francisco, fortunately, became a very expensive place to live for this reason. And so I sold that house, and I put every last dime into the company.
Wow.
I did that for two reasons. One, I know I needed to honor him. And I felt like he always used to say to me, and I don't know, maybe some of the people here today feel the same, but he always used to say to me, why would you want to work for anyone else? And as I was growing up, I didn't understand that. I didn't know what that meant. But boy, almost to the minute when he passed, I got it.
Wow.
I got it. And I thought, yeah, Dad, I'm going to do this and you're going to allow me to do it. So this is really only, CAULIPOWER exists because of him. I also did it because I felt like the money was blessed, right? I know how hard he worked for it. And so I felt like it was blessed. As I said, I sold a lot of personal belongings. I maxed out all my credit cards. I gave up every, tiny luxury I had, just like we all do. Yes. And I bet it all on a vegetable, which sounded good at the time, but I don't know. But yeah,
not a popular vegetable.
Yeah.
I read that you used to go with your father on calls when he was marketing and so forth, and you'd have dinner afterwards. Tell me a little bit how that may have shaped your view of getting in the food business.
Isn't it so funny how you can tell a story backwards?
Yes.
It's like all of these signs when I was growing up that I didn't know. So my dad, he started a sort of a salvage business where he would, take food, canned food, maybe the cans were damaged, slightly damaged, or the labels were off or what have you, and he'd sell it to hotels and restaurants around San Francisco. So unbeknownst to me, I didn't know we were going on sales calls. I didn't know he was.
How old were you at the time?
It probably started when I was 7.
Wow.
And I used to do all of that, and we used to go, and he'd sell. And the thing I learned about business from my dad, he would talk to the people who actually use the product.
Yes.
He didn't talk to the guy out in front. He went in the back and he would talk to the guys who were, cooking the food or bussing or hearing from people. And it was such a good reminder, like always connect with the people who use your product. That is the most important thing. And so he had a small store in San Francisco, and I started ringing the cash register at age 5. I would ring the cash register.
Oh, you were primed.
For $20 a day plus lunch. Yes.
Wow. It's beautiful to see, whenever a person starts a business, in my experience, if they're just doing it for money, it rarely works. And because you don't get rewarded in the very beginning by anything, but, it's like having a child. You're rewarded that they're your child.
Exactly.
But the experience of both your father and your children and your own experience of wanting to honor and create those things, it's just beautiful that was your drives and that was rewarded. Tell me something. I read somewhere you said that, entrepreneurs have to understand there are rules and there are rules to be broken. What rules did you break to be successful in what you're doing? I'm curious.
So how long do I have here today? Because I broke a lot. Okay, I'll just name 2. The first rule I broke really is, so I talked about launching in those 30 Whole Food stores. We were in Walmart, so that was in February 2017.
Mm-hmm.
We were in Walmart by September of that year.
Wow.
That's
pretty amazing. Give it up. That's incredible.
Well, you could say it's nice. Thank you for saying it's amazing, because a lot of people told me I was stupid back then, because it just wasn't done.
Yes.
But I thought about my mission. I thought about my personal mission. Why did I leave the pretty good gig in corporate America? Yeah. And the answer was, I wanted to make healthier food more accessible to all. Yeah. And I know I needed Walmart to do that. So when there was an opening in the pitch meetings, I took it and I went and I said yes. And a lot of people advised against it for a whole number of reasons. Yes. But I said yes, and today we're in 4,000 Walmart stores. So it ended up being a good bet for both of us, which is nice.
Amazing.
I guess another way that another rule I broke. People usually don't put big black letters on the front of their box, like saying funny sayings and memes and so forth. But I really felt like I wanted to make our consumers smile.
Yes.
And that's not something people usually do when they're walking through the grocery store or walking through the frozen aisle. We broke a lot of sort of traditional packaging rules to do that. And I'm really glad that we did. And now that's kind of what we're known for.
And you entered an industry, you didn't know anything about the industry. Nothing, correct?
Nothing. I cooked it, bought it, and ate it. That's all I did.
Tell people how you navigated that. I understand you hired a series of consultants and just immersed yourself in the industry so you'd know really the ins and outs. Is that right?
Yeah. I was like a sponge, to be honest with you. And in fact, I still am. I've been here for several hours now, and I've been listening to everybody speak, and I've been taking notes, and awesome. I still am a sponge. And I hired consultants to teach me about the business, and I listened really closely. I think one mistake that founders or entrepreneurs sometimes make is that because it's their company, they feel like they have to have all the answers.
Yes.
And the great thing is you don't. You just have to hire people who do.
Yes.
And so, I'm really comfortable in knowing what I don't know. Yes. And I'm really good at hiring smart people who do. And you should see my team. And this is the reason why CAULIPOWER is successful. So I think it's really, that's a really safe place for entrepreneurs to feel comfortable. Go in, lead with what you excel at, but then hire around to fill in some of the gaps.
That's wonderful. You talk about reinvention and what an important part of that is not only business, but in your life. Tell us what that means to you.
There's this wonderful quote I love, and it says, "Drowning is not what happens when you fall in the water. It's what happens when you stay there."
Yes.
Think about that.
Yes.
And I really feel like when we are, doing the same thing that we decided at the ripe old age of 18 or 22,
Yes.
right? How could we know back then? And what a shame it would be if we all go out into the world and we all learn all of these things and we meet all of these people and we see all of these places and we don't want to change.
Yeah.
That would be criminal. So I like to think that every time I meet someone new or experience something I haven't experienced before, that has to have an impact on me. And that is the core of reinvention. Reinvention is what keeps you hungry. It's what keeps you engaged. It's what keeps you curious. It's where the sparks of innovation live.
Yes.
And I hope everyone has the courage to reinvent themselves many times over. I still have a couple left in me, I hope.
That's good. I think the key word you said is courage, because I think that's the challenge. Everyone wants life to be better. No one wants to change.
Exactly.
So, the challenge. Tell me, when COVID hit, well, I don't know if COVID was the reason for this, but I understand you did a survey with 4,000 customers, and you discovered that people were sick and tired of making their own food, eating their own food. Tell us what you learned from that study, and then how did you adapt during COVID? I know frozen sales overall improved, but yours improved geometrically.
Yeah, so I would say a couple things. So, yes, we are not a D2C company because we're frozen and frozen shipping is very expensive, but we obviously had to shift
Yes.
During the pandemic. The pandemic was very hard for us. People weren't, so first of all, we had to take the business virtual overnight while it was the busiest and most complicated time.
Wow.
And it was a busy and complicated time to make food and then to get it from point A to point B. It had never been done before, right? Under those circumstances. So it was very challenging. Also, people weren't reaching for better for you food. They wanted the $3.99 all you can eat pepperoni belly fillers. That's what people wanted during the pandemic. And so it was hard. But a couple things happened. So in terms of the survey, yeah, we found people were sick of their own cooking. By the way, who wouldn't be, right? We all were. Everyone here was. So we decided to make light of that. We decided to talk to them in a language and in a way that people really understood, because CAULIPOWER really is not just about making healthier products taste great. We are very much about that, and that is what we do. But we're also about convenience. And so we put together a little box, a stick of my own cooking cookbook. We sent out a bunch of products, and we sold D2C for the first time. Did we sell lots? No, of course we didn't. But did we make our consumers laugh? Did we bring them joy at a time when they needed it most? Yes, we did. Yes. And we had this whole program called Netflix and Chill, where we got celebrities to make pizzas on Zoom. I mean, think about the ridiculousness of that. But the day Dan Levy from Schitt's Creek made a CAULIPOWER pizza during the pandemic, I thought the internet was going to break. It's wonderful.
Give her a hand. That's beautiful. That's fantastic. What's been one of the most challenging times that you've faced, and how did you turn it around? I ask all entrepreneurs that. I'm sure there have been several, but if you look back.
Yeah. I would say the pandemic for sure.
Yes.
It was.
How did you solve some of these issues? Companies today are having such a challenge even 3 years later, because people don't want to come back to work or want to come back 2 days a week, 3 days a week. And, some companies have gone completely virtual. Some companies obviously can't. How did you handle that? And how do you handle it today? I'm curious. Has there been any carryover from that time?
Yeah.
Did they change things permanently, or did they go back to normal?
What's interesting about the pandemic from a food company's perspective? In some ways, it was a great equalizer. Nestle didn't have any more experience of operating during a pandemic than CAULIPOWER did, right? Nobody did. So that was kind of a nice playing field. And what I would say is, so how we struggled through it is, I have the best team in the business. And we were really lucky because innovation is something that we talk about every day at CAULIPOWER. It is who we are. It is why the company was born. But it's not just innovation in our products, in our food. It's innovation in everything we do, in operations, in supply chain. So I challenged our team. Let's get creative. Let us figure out how to get that food onto store shelves. And I have to say, and I'm incredibly proud of them, we had a 98% fulfillment rate
Wow, during the
to our
pandemic.
to our customers. Now, sometimes our distributors couldn't get it on shelf, so
Yes.
so there was that. But on our pizza, we had a 98% fulfillment rate. That was extraordinary, and I was incredibly proud. But we also, so it was hard. We made it through, and we made it through together. Every night, I would send a little note to the team for 365 days. Sometimes it was something great that happened to the company. Sometimes it was just something to make them laugh. But just to remind people that even though we're virtual, we're all working toward a common goal. We all, and remember the mission. We are helping people eat better. We are helping people lead healthier lives. And that was really good. But I would say we also used the opportunity because we knew that big food stopped innovating during the pandemic, right? They couldn't. They had to just worry about production. So we said, we're going to double down on innovation. And as a result, the result of really doubling down on innovation during the pandemic, we were able to launch a series of new products in 2021
What were some
and 20. Some of those we have our chicken nuggets, our pasta, our frozen meals, and we were only able to launch those products because we innovated during the pandemic when no one else was.
Wow, that's beautiful. Tell me, why did you not take the company? Why did you not sell the company? Why did you not take them become public? And or what's your view of the future for the company?
You know what? We want to continue to grow. We have built a great company. We continue to grow. Our innovation is a huge source of that growth. And even though we are successful by a number of metrics, there's still a lot of people out there who haven't tried CAULIPOWER yet. So we want to introduce CAULIPOWER to them, and we really, we're sort of known as the cauliflower crust pizza company. That's what made us famous. We're going to be the number one better for you frozen food company.
Better for you frozen food company.
That is our goal, and we will do it.
Yeah. That's wonderful. One of the things that we've been talking about here is knowing what business you're in, but what business you're really in, or what business you need to be in. Apple's such a perfect example. In '97, when Steve Jobs came back, and they were in big trouble. And he said, what business were in? Everybody said computers. And he said, then we're in deep trouble because Microsoft controls 97% of the market.
Exactly.
And they all said, what are we really? We're connecting people to their passions. What are their passions? And it started with music.
Exactly.
And that's how the whole game changed to the most successful company in history. What do you hope? I'm going to finish with this question, and we're going to bring out each person. We'd love to have the group ask some questions, and maybe even you guys ask each other a few questions. But what is the lesson that you want because it was what you started with, you want your boys to have from this journey?
It's such a good question. And I often wonder, what has having a front row seat to seeing their mom build CAULIPOWER, what has that done to them? Does it make them want to be an entrepreneur more? Or does it make them want to run the other way? I think.
How old are they now?
So now they're 24 and 19.
Okay, and they've been on a 7-year journey.
Yes. So I would say it's definitely geared more toward. I think they have the entrepreneurial itch, which is great. But I hope it shows them, I guess, 3 things. One, always bet on yourself. Because if you don't, no one else is going to.
Yes.
Always bet on each other. When you are an entrepreneur, you rely very, very so much on your village, on your team, and and you can't do it without them. So we always cheer each other on. And then 3, I hope it shows them, reminds them that their job is to leave the world a little bit better than they found it. That's what I have always tried to instill in them, and I think they will.
Oh, you're doing it. Thank you very, very
Thank you.
much.
Thank you.
Give it up for Gail, everybody. Gail Becker. You're not leaving, though. It's going to have you right this seat. Let her hear ya.